Our next speaker is Associate Director at the Brand and Media Experience Unit at iSquare. Florian Pasnik is keen to understand how people are using new media formats and new media channels, and has a high interest in the contemporary digital lifestyle. In his topic today, Florian will introduce the automated Spark platform, which has been developed together with DAC.digital and has been launched last year. In Spark, iSquare brought together several automatable tools such as the in-context technology, Quest Samplify for a fast and intuitive market research automation platform. But let's hear about it from Florian.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Anastasia. Dzień dobry. We were at a restaurant yesterday evening. We learned some Polish. We learned very warmly. We had very nice people, I think. So I'll be here, and thank you so much. Actually, I'm talking about Spark today, as you said. And what we call it an in-context research platform. I will go into more detail what that means for us and our work, and basically what we want to achieve with that today. I'm also going to talk about iSquare a little bit, what we're actually doing with our work, for the ones that are maybe not too familiar with us yet, about Spark, and basically what we imagine the use cases and applications for our users, for our clients actually, for that to be. And in the end, maybe if we still have time, I'll talk a bit about the implementations, next steps, and what we actually want to achieve maybe in the future with Spark as well. Maybe short about iSquare, for the ones who are not too familiar with us yet. I will not go into much detail, but Michael already talked a lot about human experience research, and what we want to do with that is we have three teams at iSquare. It's the user experience team, the shopper experience team, and the brand and media experience team, which I'm part of. Basically, we're doing a lot of research for a lot of clients. You can see across the globe, basically, that's the world map we always have of countries iSquare has conquered yet with our research and clients. We're about 82 consultants by now, and what really separates us from many other clients and many other companies we have on the market is, first of all, our global benchmark data, but also our US patent software solution, the context research approach, which I'm going to talk about today. And also, we're kind of proud of the research awards we've been winning in the past. So that's about that. And about me, I'm Associate Director, as Lassie already said. I'm part of the brand and media experience team for 6.5 years now, as a media psychologist. And what we do a lot of effectiveness studies. For example, we try to understand how different creatives, different campaigns actually really land with consumers. We want to show our clients how they can basically make their ads more effective, how they can understand campaigns, and actually what the users and their clients actually want and need in the market. I'm also doing a lot of eye tracking research in home photographies, and most of the time for global studies and global clients across the globe. One thing Michael already touched on in his presentations is basically the three pillars we are working with when we're talking about human experience research. We're looking at System 0, System 1, and System 2. And what we're trying to understand with that and trying to aim with that is different layers of understanding, of perception, of processing, of all kinds of information, for example, brand communication or the perception of websites. And we try to understand the effect it has on users, on us as people who are using media, who are using websites, for example, and try to do a holistic approach. That's why we call it human experience research. And we also try to address this in our Spark platform. So what we're seeing actually here is kind of a translation of these kind of systems we're calling into approaches we bring in our research. For example, System 0, perception, we try to address it with the eye tracking research, for example. So how are, for example, users of a website actually perceiving those websites? What do they see? What don't they see? System 1, the implicit reaction. For example, we have the brand measurement. It's an implicit association task. We always call it the gut feeling. So with quick responses, I can show what is my feeling towards the brand, what is my feeling towards the website, what is my feeling towards the product. And obviously, we also have System 2, which we call the explicit layer or the explicit approach. Classical survey data, interviews, say, okay, what are our explicit responses, thoughts, and verbalizations about products, brands, maybe websites. And we try to combine all these also, obviously, with our Spark platform and the context approach. It's already been touched upon that actually our collaboration with DAC.digital came across with the Spark platform, and DAC.digital actually helped us to develop the platform together. And our basic aim with that was to centralize, to facilitate, and to also accelerate the research process and all of the different tools we're using at Iceberg for our implicit human experience research. And kind of the user or the target group for that solution was clients we're having on a regular basis. We want to test, for example, their assets, which may be creatives, which may be websites, on a regular basis, and to standardize research for them, also for us, and then to make it even quicker and more, let's say, directly tangible in an easy way. And in this way, we got Spark a safe environment, basically. It can be for the exchange of assets, it can be for receiving quotations on a new study, on a new target group, pricing overviews, as well as data overview in a dashboard and quick reporting. Obviously, with all kinds of technology, all kinds of solutions, we call it a living ecosystem that is constantly expanding, because of course we need to get into what do our clients really want, what is technically possible, what can we improve, what can we do with this platform. So it is very well a work in progress, but it's also running quite well to know. And what we've touched upon, for example, Mike in this presentation, but also Lee earlier, of course with Spark and with our context platform, we want to touch upon all of these types of layers in the spectrum of human experience. So with the research we're doing with Spark, we want to be able to provide measurements actually across all these different systems that are involved in human experience research. And to get a bit more into detail, or maybe a bit more practical, what does it mean, a platform such as Spark? Well, in our case, it's a platform that connects basically all different steps, all different processes that are involved in research we're doing at Iceberg. So what you're seeing here now are our tools and our solutions, approaches. I will go into some into more detail. One central pillar definitely is in context testing. Our clients really appreciate that. We are very well known in the market for this. We call it a live platform for realistic media. So we are sending participants, for example, to Facebook, to YouTube, it can be also a website, in order to show what is the context to, for example, an ad, a creative for a website, in a realistic and really natural environment. We don't just show the creative and say, hey, do you like this ad, yes or no? We actually try to observe participants in their natural environment. How do we do that? Of course, we do that with a sample, we do that with recruiting participants. So we also feed the data and the panel into the platform, so that participants can that clients can actually see, okay, I'm doing a new campaign, let's say for example for lipstick. For that, obviously, I would like to target female users, female clients, maybe on the active side, and within the tool, you can actually see how many participants could I reach, how much would it cost me, and what's possible. What we of course also want to integrate are the measurements such as classical survey with our platform that's called Tibian. So the clients can actually design surveys to a certain extent and customize them with their own questions. I will show that later. And of course, we can upload, we can use the media assets that have been uploaded by clients such as the creators, the ads themselves. I've already talked about the brand association test. We call it brand react, which is measuring, for example, images, reactions to products or websites with an implicit association test. And what we also included is something of a dashboard reporting to see real-time data and real-time responses, for example, on the survey data. Why are we doing that? What is the business case? What was the idea, the background behind Sparks? One of the major things we're seeing in the last years, last 4 or 5 years maybe, is a lot of buzz around the word automation. Clients want to see results fast, clients want to have a very short time from actually coming to us with their idea, with their research question, to reporting to actually having the results. So we were thinking of a platform that's basically enabling us to do research and studies very quickly. And also what we see is that a lot of our clients are actually more empowered, are actually better at understanding what they actually want. They are quite clear about what they want. They also want to feel empowered of the process itself, of the research process. So basically it's a platform provided by us to also empower clients in the way they can design surveys, they can decide what's going to be asked, But also there are nice benefits such as lower costs because we can actually automatize processes. And also, the good thing is that we can actually include the whole research portfolio. So it's not at the compromise of just asking, hey, do you like this, add this or no? No, we can still do all the methods, all the measurements we want to do with our studies. Also, obviously, there's some benefits for us. We are free from manual, repetitive, and unfulfilling work maybe at certain steps because the survey programming is in the hands of the client to a certain extent. They can extend it and edit it the way they want. We can focus on other parts of the work, which is actually still needed, of course, consulting, answering clients' questions, what is possible, what do they actually want to find out. And we call it also a democratization of the research process. Younger colleagues who maybe just joined our company, they are also able to help clients now with setting up researches at an early stage because we want to automatize many processes, so the learning curve can be quite steep as it's not so hard to learn the platform and to learn the certain processes of the research we do now. I wanted to show two use cases to make it more tangible what the Spark platform actually may look like in the real world and what some use cases might be or actually can be from our perspective. Certainly one of the major use cases is our context express testing and pre-testing. So say for example we're having a client, let's say Nivea, they're doing a new campaign for a skin lotion they might be having and they want to decide whether it's with A, B, or C that's actually the best one to use for their new campaign. They can use our tool for a new context express test to quickly decide, okay, which creative lands best with our target group, which one is understand the best, and it's a quick way to do that. In this case, obviously, it's a basic form of A/B testing. They have different creatives already prepared, and they want to see which one is working the best across the target group. But you can, of course, also gain insight into whether the campaign is really understood by customers, whether it tells customers what it really should tell them, and you can also understand more about how your ad, for example, in this case, is actually seen in the platform. We always still get really interesting reactions when clients learn that, for example, with Facebook or YouTube, contact times to ads and creatives are quite short actually, and that in this very limited amount of time that possible customers actually pay attention to your ad, you need to be quite focused in your communication. So this is always a good insight for our clients. And we are strong proposals of our in-context media integration because it's basically a realistic, let's say, replication of how a content looks in its natural environment. I will give an example of that on the next slide. Basically, we can send participants, for example, to Facebook, to YouTube, to Instagram for 3 to 5 minutes and have them surf on there, and we will naturally integrate the creative, followed by customizable surfing to see, okay, how does it really land with customers in its real context on Facebook? How do customers actually look at it? How do they perceive it? And what actually sticks with them in terms of messages and communication? What's also very popular is that we have a lot of benchmarking across verticals. A lot of our customers, a lot of our clients actually want to see, yeah, all right, good to see our values, but how do we actually compare to other brands on the market, to comparable verticals? So that's always a benefit for them. And if needed, if wanted, of course we call them special add-ons. We have the implicit integrating test, I was talking about the gut feeling with the brand track. But also we can integrate eye tracking, emotion analysis, and other research approaches we have. And as an example, this is an integration on the left side you can see to Facebook. So we're seeing an ad here for Samsung. And what we do is actually we send participants to Facebook, ask them to surf there for 5 minutes maybe, and it's basically real Facebook to them. And what we see is that we will embed the ad, in this case the test ad of Facebook, into the third position, which is the normal position on Facebook for the first ad you see. Also, this is customizable. It could be the 5th position, the 7th position in the feed. But yeah, it's basically, in our sense and our perception, it's basically the most realistic approach, because this is how brand communication, how ad communication really works in the real world, right? You're having contact on it, on social media, on different platforms, and that's what we want to study. So it looks quite similar, obviously, on Instagram because the logic is quite the same, right? Across Facebook and Instagram. On the right, we're having an example on YouTube. And obviously, we can also embed the ad on YouTube as a pre-roll, for example. We can show different forms of ad on YouTube. We can do the same for TikTok, and we can do the same for Twitter. So it's a lot of different platforms, obviously, depending on where you want to show the ad. But it's all preferred when you are testing because it's just so much more rich in data and so much more accurate and naturalistic compared to just, for example, showing an ad maybe. We also have a sample case with that. We studied a Nike campaign that was called Runner's High for a new form of running shoes. And what we did with this ad is basically it was launched by Nike in platform optimized versions. So for example, there was a platform optimized version for YouTube, and there's one for Instagram, because different platforms obviously have different needs and different, let's say, ramifications, implications for the ad. So you can see that on Instagram it's more of a vertical video mode. On YouTube, it's more of YouTube is a classical video platform, right? So it's more of a typical video format. And we studied that in a sample case. And what we're actually able to prove is that for this specific ad, YouTube was a lot better suited for the ad than Instagram. We saw that the overall performance, we're also seeing here again the different scores on the 3-layer system, 0, system 1, system 3, are way better for the ad tested on YouTube than compared to Instagram. We always say the typical video platform, YouTube is able to elicit more emotion because we're actually more used to watching videos there. And videos, of course, in themselves, are more drawn to storylines, to storytelling, versus Instagram is more kind of like we always call it window shopping. It's basically looking at pictures quickly, but also the attention span, the time you really have for an ad contact is really, really short. So with the help of our context express testing, we were able to show that for this specific case of the Nike commercial. Also, of course, we're having other applications, for example, UX benchmarking. My colleagues might do at the user experience team. And we were able to compare different online retailers. For example, we're having 4 quite large online shops in Germany tested with that. Of course, we're seeing Amazon, Home24, Saturn, and I'm always forgetting the 4th one, I should say, on the next diagram. eBay was, I think, right? And what we did a classical survey, and we're using these system acceptance scale items to show, okay, what are users of these websites really thinking about the experience they're having on these websites. And interesting enough, at least for me, is that Home24, a website I wasn't too aware of before actually, is quite the best on most of the items. You can see, especially in terms of usability, users really favored it in terms of overview and also accessibility, whereas Amazon was seen as the most useful online shop. And I think this is kind of related to Amazon really being able to establish a market position in which they are the go-to shop. If you want to buy a new thing, a new technological asset, whatever, by now, users most of the time, at least in Germany and in the US, go to Amazon first to get first orientation. Okay, what's the price, what's the product on the market? And I think this is reflected in the score that's actually seen as the most useful on the market. So we're having a lot of different applications, obviously, for Spark. These were just 2 examples. We're also having, of course, our shopper experience team who's talking about how our products see in the supermarket, how do shelves look for consumers, so this could also be an application. And maybe as a last bit of my presentation today, is honestly actually look in real life. What's a real life example for that? We've brought some use cases of power users, so actually our clients who might use the platform, and due to the short time already today, I want to talk about Jenny Pro. We call her our external power user. She's actually able to send a brown survey with Spark now. And she can also do specific customizations of the survey if she wants to. She can ask specific items to participants if she's having a specific question in mind on the new campaign they might be testing. She's uploading the ads and defining the assets herself. And for the rest, in terms of, maybe doing the final touches, she's sending over 5 directly, but the first step she's all doing herself. And how does it look in reality? I'm having a video, and I really hope it's playing what it should be. I think we start already. So what we're seeing here is the GUI, the platform, and participants, our clients are actually seeing the different projects they can start, and we're having different templates in Spark in order to use the platform. And if Jenna Pro, in this case, she would like to have an Infotext Express ad pretest, she can actually name it herself, she can do a reference number she might need for invoicing, and then, as it were, create the project herself, and then go into the details for it. She can decide on the number of ads she wants to test, for example, in classical A/B testing, 2 ads. She can define the number of participants she wants to have per sale, which would be 200 for an A/B testing. She can decide on the country and language, on which devices she wants to actually test this on. And then it's all about the demographics. So for this case, we would like to have a 50-50 male split, the ages, and then Spark is actually connected to our panel provider to actually make this possible. It's, as a preset, we're having quite general and I think the most regular target groups. If there's something that's very specific, of course, they always need to talk with us about it, but for, I would say, most applications until now, it's fairly standardized and it's actually included here. And then what Jenny Pro or Pro user can do is actually select the ad she wants to test, upload it herself, name it herself, and then it will be integrated into the survey. She's doing that for ad 1 and 2 in this example too. And then what we're seeing in this step is actually the defining of the survey already. For example, me as a night client in this example, I can compare, I can define the competitors I want to test against. So of course, this would be shoe brands in this case, so I can define that already. Because we're asking about product interest, product preference, she can also put the vertical into them, so we're testing sneakers. And then also she can define different custom statements, for example. I, as an I, want to understand, am I perceived as something special? Am I adding value? Am I offering durable sneakers? So with this basically option of customization, clients can actually add specific items to the survey as well. And then we're still seeing the GUI, and this is what our client relations or actually as the overview, and it's also basically the background they see the files they have added. They can also go to the templates. As I said, it's still a work in progress, but until now it's quite intuitive, I would say, and we're strongly getting there. In terms of implication, I touched upon this in the beginning already. We believe that our use case is especially recommended for regular clients that are testing a lot of ads on a regular basis. What we see is that in our business we are having these kinds of clients and these kinds of use cases a lot, but we're also, of course, having very specific, very individual projects. So it's half-half for clients who are very into customizable service, into highly specific questions they are having for a campaign maybe. We wouldn't recommend Spark, but for the other ones we're doing it on a regular basis, who already are familiar with us in the process, it's definitely an advantage to them. And also, if you're doing one test regularly, you're of course getting benefit. Users, or clients in this case, can actually add team members to Spark. We have the project managers there, and also assistants, the agencies, recruitment parties. I already talked about that. We are actually offering documentation and support for our clients there. There's a manual available, and there's customers and test available. We've seen the template our pro user was working in this example for the Infotext Express, but we're also working on other templates, different templates, and additional sampling criteria, so that we're actually allowing to embed more specified, more individual surveys. And how we're doing it right now is that the costs for our clients are only once the the template is fully updated for every project. As I said, it's a living being, always with a lot of technological platforms, so we are also always working on adding more templates to make it easier for our clients, adding other teams. We want to add more features in, for example, standardized eye tracking, emotion analysis solutions, advanced user management, and of course, onboarding workshops for our clients, also for young colleagues who have joined us, in order to be able to work more flawlessly and seamlessly with the project. And that's so far from my side to